Hi Capricorn, welcome to your July 2023 Astro-Tarot with me, Raphael from Radiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. Quick note, these readings are for your sun, moon and ascendant signs. So whether you're a sun, moon or rising sign, Cappy, this is for you. And I always advise that you watch all three to get a clearer, more complete picture of how they're going to speak to you. With that said, remember they are general readings. Not everything's going to resonate with everybody, and that is just fine. You should always use your own discernment. Before we start, as always, I would like to bless my decks of cards with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help you all on your path to your highest vibrational good. Now, also worth noting, remember, I am using whole sign Western tropical astrology here. And the thing that I really want you to be aware of is if you're only going to watch one of these per month, please make sure it is for your ascendant sign, because it's likely to be the most accurate on that day-to-day level. Now, with that said, this month and from here on in, I'm going to be adding a little extra tidbit of information, so you can let me know if you think it helps. It's to really help you bring more cohesive context to the entire reading. So your themes for the month are desires and decisions, creativity and communication. All right, so the first transit that I would like to look at for you is on the 1st of July, so straight out of the gate, right? Venus is coming into a square with Uranus. So this is happening across the signs of Leo and Taurus, and for you that represents the 5th house and the 8th house. Now, this is this is about desire, sensuality, sexuality and romance. So the first thing that I want to look at here as well, this could be a very welcome surprise, but a surprise nonetheless when it comes to partnership and or relationship. If you're single, this could be a really passionate, sexy, fun, flirtatious and steamy kind of energy that shows up for you, but it comes from a really unexpected source, right? Because it's, you know, the 5th house, which is the romance element and the pleasure and the sex, and the 8th house, which is like sex, you know, like where you really get deeply sort of, you know, almost like primal and obsessive about somebody. But because of the signs, because of the way that this is combining and the fact that it is Uranus, this might be, you know, maybe you, as the song goes by Billie Eilish, maybe you body a friend, right? What that means is maybe you end up hooking up with a friend, you completely lose your mind, you hook up with a friend and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did that. So that could be one way this could shape up. It could also be that creative ideas, you might start to experiment in a really weird and wonderful way with how you dress, what you wear, maybe even do something with your hair. Venus rules your 5th house and your 10th house, right? So really, this I feel is like a creative idea or endeavor that might get you out of your mind and really very much into your body. So this could be a hobby, and it might be something that you take up that you're instantly good at, and you're kind of like, oh, you know, well, I'm really good at this. It potentially has a financial element to it, you know, and if that is true, you might be able to find it work as a viable sort of financial income source, you know, especially as a Capricorn. Now, there's something in here about desire, romance and sexuality. So if you're partnered, maybe your partner completely takes you surprise and says, I'm whisking you away, we're going for a dirty weekend, the kids are with mum, we're out, let's go, right? So this could be where you and your partner just absolutely ravish each other, which, listen, if you're partnered and you get into all of that, have fun, have at it. Have some for me too. I jest. Right, this could also be welcome news about your children if you've got them, but you might realize that the logistics are not easy. So let's say your child gets a scholarship to like a really prestigious school, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, right? But it completely turns everything upside down, and that's that Uranian element. Because it's Venus, it can be really wonderful, but it could be potentially be something about a relationship with a child, etc., that could also be quite disruptive. So for this, you have the King of Swords. So I call it, if you've got kids, the disruption is very likely to be something to do with their school or their profession even, you know, or their vocation if they are a teenager. Then you've got the Page of Pentacles, so there's the potential business element to it, and then you've got the King of Wands. Two kings represents minor counts council. So this is about you gathering knowledge, wisdom, information and facts this month about a hobby. So it's like you end up doing something that you kind of feel is really fun, but you're instantaneously very good at it, and then you start thinking, I wonder if I can turn this into a business. For a lot of you, it does look like you will find a way, or at least stumble on an idea, potentially very much by surprise, of how to how to create a new revenue stream for yourself. Now, in the context of relationship, I'm just going to tell you straight up, if you're single, and it looks like potentially for those of you that are partnered, married, or in long-term commitments as well, it looks like you could be having to choose between one, like you got two suitors basically, is what this is saying. So the next transit that I want to look at is on the 11th of July. Mercury is coming into the sign of Leo, right? So this is a big deal because it's the second time that this is going to be an activation of your 8th house. Mercury into your 8th house might get very loud. So this is a house of transformation, but it's also a house of crisis and challenge as well. What this means is this could be that you start really thinking very deeply over some of your unconscious habits or patterns at the psychological level, and you start thinking to yourself, right, this is a hang up, this is an issue, this is a problem, I want to start getting rid of this now. Now, because it's Mercury, you might also start to have secrets revealed to you, because Mercury is communication, the 8th house is secrets. So this could be where people start telling you things and you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this, like this person just told me this. Now, if it is the case, you're a Capricorn, so you tend to be quite responsible. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If people start suddenly divulging really private, very personal secrets to you, it is your responsibility, a Capricornian word, to hold those secrets and to take them to the grave. If you're one of the sort of people that, after a few martinis, you get a little bit loose-lipped, then I would advise you saying to people, hey, listen, I'd rather not know at the moment. So it's really important that you hold your integrity around this. Now, it could also work the other way. You might really suddenly feel to start talking about some kind of secret that you have, right? Especially because Mercury, and it's in Leo. So this could be as well what like where people test the waters with things, like they say something and they're like, oh, I'm totally joking, and it's like underneath it, if you're intuitive, you're always like, no, you meant that. Right? So this could also be that you start digging or looking for information on certain topics, especially those of an occult nature. This is a psychic energy house, so it's possible that you could be focused on those kinds of things. It's a great time for you to have an astrology, tarot, numerology, human design, all of the types of things of the spiritual sciences will be of interest to you, and the results that you get from those things at this time will be really powerful. Seeing psychics and the stuff like that is very highly favored. As the ruler of your 9th house and your 6th house, this transit really is all about your work life and how you make money from other people. So it could see you chasing like a title change, a pay rise, maybe even it might come with a change of duties and responsibilities for some of you as well. Because it's Mercury, and Mercury requires like technical skill, I will say to you, whatever the technical elements or even technological elements are of your job, make sure you are up to par with those, because you're going to need them, especially if you're going after that sort of pay rise, right? With the 10 of Swords, this is the end of an old habit that's got in your way. With the Strength card, beautiful, interesting, because that's Leo energy. With the 4 of Cups. So it looks like a lot of you are breaking out of an emotional stagnancy this month, and it's like you have the courage to really be yourself by owning something that maybe before you wouldn't have shared with people. So this could be some part of your story now that you feel empowered enough to share, and that Mercury is going to help you articulate it. It's going to help you find the words to say it in a way that feels empowering to you. And that Strength card, right, is like you've got the heart, the guts, the courage and the strength to break an emotional habit, pattern or tie. On the 20th of July, Mars is going to oppose Saturn, your ruling planet. This is happening across the Virgo-Pisces axis. And for you, this is about your 3rd house and your 9th house. So across the 3rd and the 9th, you're going to be getting a reality check, right? So Saturn is your ruling planet. So this is an energy that you know how to work with. But Saturn in the third house, it might have been crystallizing your skills or helping you sharpen and hone those skills, but it might have also made communication a lot harder. Like maybe you feel like, why are people just misunderstanding me, or why are people not hearing what I'm saying to them? It could feel like something that you've been saying to a boss, a friend, a co-worker, a partner, a child is just falling on deaf ears. Saturn wants you to take responsibility for your voice and the things that you say. So this is really, it's not just about like, yes, I have responsibility for speaking up or speaking my truth. This is about being really clear on the impact on other people that your words and your mouth actually have, right? Mars in that ninth house of Virgo is potentially one of the more challenging places, I feel, because it forces you to consider fighting for your beliefs, and you might need to back it up with some kind of action. Everybody knows, like, Capricorn will run you through with their mouth, boy, I tell you what. Like, and you guys are known for your follow through for goals and things for the long term, but this might require some kind of actual literal action, and this might be something that you have to dig sort of quite deep for. Mars as the ruler of your 4th and the 11th, it might be a reality check in terms of home and future plans. Saturn as the ruler of your 1st and your 2nd, it might come down to money or finances, where you have to have like a really hard talk, and there's no getting around it because it's an opposition until you deal with it. And because it's Saturn and Mars, there's no getting around this in a clever way or finding a workaround. You just have to face it. Once you do though, you'll be glad you did. So you got the Fool card, which basically says that the way out is through. So deal with it, right? Because there's a break in the energy or a change in direction that shows up very shortly after this with the World card, right? So this potentially excites or enables you to start thinking about a longer term or long distance move, potentially a change of community and or country. And it's interesting because the 3rd house is your local community, the 9th house is the world. So it's really interesting that you should have this combination of cards with that. And then you've got the Hanged Man, right? So that's a lot of energy for this transit. It's obviously going to hit you harder than most because you are Saturn ruled. Now, that Hanged Man with the World card, this is deep considerations of the spiritual implications of staying in the place that you're in or moving to another place. And then finally, on the 23rd of July, Mercury is going to square Uranus this time, and Venus is going retrograde. And again, this is happening across the 5th and the 8th, but this is more about conversations now. Conversations about money, finances and resources. Conversations around money and joint resources could get very loud at this point, maybe even quite shocking. It could also be someone has tried to tell you something or vice versa, and again, it's just not quite getting through. This is where a heart-to-heart is going to favour a head-to-head, right? If you try to do a head-to-head here, something's going to snap or break, whereas if you do a heart-to-heart and you open up on a really deep level, true change and profound change could probably happen for you. You could reach some kind of equal footing through conversation. Now, use kind words with the Capricorn charm that you possess, and you will definitely get what you want. Whereas if you try to force it, you're going to lose, okay? A child, one of your children, if you have them, could absolutely shock you with some kind of information. I wonder if this is a coming out of the closet. Maybe this is you, maybe this is a partner, maybe it's one of your children. And when I say this, it doesn't have to be like the usual closet. It could be the broom closet, right? Coming out of the broom closet is a term that we older folks in the spiritual community used to use for, you know, when you come out and say, I'm an astrologer, or I'm into numerology, or I'm a witch. It actually was for people who practice the craft in some way, shape or form. So coming out of the broom closet, which is where you keep your broom as a witch, right? Or one of the places anyway. If you're anything like me, you keep it near the door. I'm gonna make sure I spot any and all shit coming in and out of my door. You better fucking believe it. Anywho, soapbox moment over. So that's something to consider, right? Something around sexuality, or someone having tried and worked really hard to craft a speech that will get you to understand them, right? So if somebody comes to you and says, look, I want to talk to you about this, and this secret that they're telling you is that they're coming out to you in one form or another, I will say this to you: this person has worked very, very hard to come to you and tell you what they're going to tell you. So no matter how shocking it is, try to do your best to meet it with love and compassion, all right? Because I can tell you without a doubt, this person will have really, like, they will have come to you trembling inside. It will be really hard for them. So find the courage to listen. For this, you've got the Eight of Wands. There's the communication. And interestingly enough, this card represents Mercury in Sagittarius. Then you've got the Nine of Wands. Okay, so potentially whatever you're told or you hear is a bit of a shock, right? It might be really hard to hear. And then you've got the Tower, right? So not might be, it will be a bit of a shock. But how you deal with it is going to be everything. And it will determine how and when, or whether somebody ever does trust you or tell you something again, right? So if this is one of your kids, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not a parent, so I don't know. But if this is one of your kids and they come and tell you something and it's been really hard for them to tell you this, and potentially, you know, something that's made them really, really nervous, find a way to digest it without flying off the handle or freaking out or whatever, because the chances are if you do that, they'll never trust you with anything again. I'm sorry to say. All right, so that seems to want out. So for your moons, you get one new moon, one full moon per sign per year. And this full moon on the 3rd of July in the sign of Capricorn is your full moon for the year. This is highlighting you. It's putting a spotlight on you. You got the gate 25 and innocence. And this is basically about living from the heart space and allowing yourself to be seen for all of who you actually are versus who you propose to be or pretend to be or present yourself to be. This is really, I think, this right out the gate, that 3rd of July, that full moon in Capricorn, it's helping you present the most authentic version of you. And interestingly enough, that your 5th house and your 8th house are being so lit up, because the 5th house is true self-expression, right? True, like, authentic self-expression. And the 8th house is the stuff about you that you don't really want people to know. So that full moon could reveal something about you that, or maybe you reveal something about yourself that you've waited for a time, right? And it could be the other way around as well. Then you've got the gate 20 and the now, and this is for July 17th, the Cancer new moon, which happens in your relationship sector. So it's interesting that your moons kind of reflect what's going on with the astrology and the cards, right? So the new moon is about me for you. The full moon this month is about me for you, Capricorn. The new moon in the sign of Cancer is in the 7th house, which is about you or we. And what I like about this is this card really is about saying that your true power lies in the moment, right? And what this requires, potentially, if someone comes to tell you something that's really shocking or kind of like, oh, okay, I don't really know how to deal with this, it will require you to forget what you know, put down the history, and just work with where you're at right this moment in time, right? So if someone comes to you and they say something to you around this new moon in Cancer, and you're like, okay, never expected that. Don't dig into all the experiences around that and the history attached to it. Ask yourself how you exactly feel right then and there in the moment, and go from there. All right. With that said, I wish you an abundance of all of that good stuff. Have a fantastic month. Let me know in the comments how it shapes up. Take care, and I'll see you soon.